Love the artillery, for it is the salvation of our platoon. Obey its words, for he will bring us into the light of the future. Honor the servants of the artillery, they will save our soul. Uh, Tremble before the majesty of the artillery. Yes, we are back, and I learned of the holiness of the artillery. I think we're getting closer and closer to the end. I have a feeling like looking at our last choice. I cheated a bit, but yeah, looking at the end choice of section 68, I think we're close. We're getting close. What was it again? Section 68. Section. Control F is a hard time. 68. I want to. We'll have to do it manually. Let's scroll down. Yes. No. I'm lagging. There we go. The missile smashed against the side of the BMP, burning a hole in the crew compartment and exploding the vehicle in a fiery burst of flame and smoke. A second BMP pushed through the smoke, maneuvered around its burning wingman, and raced away back into the bunker. Specialist Reardon, one of the SAR gunners, jerked back violently, hit in the shoulder and chest by the angry bullets from the charging BMP. Spinning backwards, he fell down under the cover of his bunker, landing on his back. The BMP, swinging its turrets to the east, bypassed Davis' position and raced to the east. Davis waited for the BMP to get out of range and then ran over to Reardon. The lieutenant knelt down next to his wounded soldier and held him in his arms. Lieutenant, Reardon mumbled weakly and then suddenly gasped for breath and died. Davis checked the soldier's pulse. Nothing. Davis paused for a silent moment, drained from the loss of another one of his men. Slowly he passed his hand over Reardon's face, gently closing the dead man's eyelids. He grabbed Reardon's identification tag, snapped it free, and quickly picked up the dead soldier's saw. The weapon had a half-full canister of ammunition attached. Davis sensed that the lull would not last. He knew that he had to get back to his platoon. Davis crawled a few yards, waited, then ran the south wall of Wadi al-Sari. Smoke from the burning vehicles helped conceal his withdrawal. The sounds of battle rose again. The main battle was occurring north of Wadi al-Sari. Running from cover to cover, Davis finally reached the south wall of the wadi. He stumbled along the wall heading east, searching for the rally point. Halt! A voice rang out. Davis, is that you? A voice shouted from a rocky position along the southern wall. Piper? Davis yelled as he ran towards the voice. Piper! I'm glad to see you! Piper grabbed the lieutenant and pulled him down into a hasty firing position behind a pile of basalt rocks. The rest of the survivors of the platoon huddled around Piper. The men from OP North and Gerber were not with Piper. We've 24 men left, counting you. I don't know about Tyler and his 2 men. The men from OP South are with us. What about Gerber? Davis was concerned about the M60 gunner he had sent to cover the rear of the platoon's position. We haven't seen him. No one's heard his machine gun firing. Davis winced. 24 men, counting Gerber, Vetterman, Tyler, and his 2 men. First platoon had lost 14 men. We have 4 men wounded. 2 are serious and lost a lot of blood, Piper announced grim-faced. What are your orders? I know it's no consolidation, but we left more of them lying out there on the battlefield, Davis proclaimed, loud enough for all to hear. Yes, Arcady is hard. Good. Should we try to link up with Bravo Company? Sergeant Mark asked. The company, or what's left of it, isn't anywhere near BP Bravo, Piper interjected. My guess is that there's nothing east of us but the enemy. Well, we can't go south. The mountain is too steep, Davis said as he unfolded this map. He studied the terrain for a few seconds. His finger traced a narrow trail that led southeast to where a part of the 1st Infantry lines were supposed to be. We're heading southeast. We'll find our way back if necessary, and we'll carry our wounded with us. So we don't stand a chance, Sergeant Mark pleaded. Our wounded need medical treatment. Maybe we ought to surrender. We don't know for sure that the brigade from 1st Infantry is to our southeast, Piper said, looking nervously at Davis. They could be miles away by now. With only one heavy brigade in theater, would they risk its destruction? If you won't surrender the unit, maybe I could stay with the wounded and surrender. You could carry on. A wounded soldier on a makeshift stretcher groaned from the pain of his wounds. The man, Private Carlson, was delirious. His friends stood around him while one man gently raised his head to allow him to sip some warm water from an almost empty canteen. We've done our job here, sir, Sergeant Mark said softly. It's time to think of the wounded. Surrender? Davis questioned. American surrender? Well, no, they obliterate Iran, right? Don't sue for peace at all. No, Americans never surrender. It's just, it just looks like surrender, you know? No. Yeah. Current events, ladies and gentlemen. Current events. Battalion has cut and run, sir, Mark answered. Piper just said that the company withdrew from BP Bravo and left us to die. We didn't get the support we needed. The enemy pushed through our defenses. It's already several kilometers to the east. It's not our fault. It's up to you, sir, Piper added sadly. We don't have much left to fight with. We're down a few rounds of ammo and only a few canteens of water. Davis looked at the tired, dirty, bruised man in front of him. Others, wounded and exhausted, lay among the rocks. A man will follow you either way, Piper announced slowly. Davis sat in silence for a long while. Surrender. I thought we were warriors. We don't surrender. Surrender is losing by default. You don't know what happens. Maybe they execute us. You know, I don't know if they. We just killed a lot of them. What are they just going to be peaceful about it? No. No surrender. No surrender. I don't think so. 71. Surrender. Yeah, go back to section 3 and start again. No. That's what I thought. Don't think so. Ah, you remember our famous strategist because Davis is a big nerd. And that's why we're hired. Right. Davis remembered the words of the historian strategist Sir Basil Littleheart. Helplessness induces hopelessness, and history attests that loss of hope and not loss of life is what decides the issue of war. All warfare is moral warfare, right? Yes. We're not surrendering, Davis said, grimly determined to carry on. Our lines can't be that far away, we have to try. But sir, Sergeant Mark protested. Can it, Mark? That's an order, Davis said, raising his finger in the sergeant's face. He was white hot with anger. The loss of his men stung in his soul. He wasn't going to have their sacrifice go for nothing. They took with the soldier for that. It's been tough, but we're all better than that. I'm not going to let you get shot or rot in an enemy POW camp. Not while we still have the chance to make it back to our lines. You're right, Piper said. We'll make it. In battle, there are no prizes for second place. We've got to make it back to our own lines. Yeah. First Brigade of the 1st Infantry Division is supposed to be to the southeast. All we have to do now is get there. The discussion was interrupted by the sudden sound of helicopters. Heinz! Enemy helicopters! Two Hind D helicopters flew slowly east down the valley of the Wadi al Sarim. Max. The big, dangerous birds looked like fat vultures searching for prey. Take cover, everybody get low, freeze, Davis ordered. The battered, tired soldiers obeyed and clung to the rocks like lizards hiding from the crows. The enemy helicopters continued their flight to the east. The sound of the rotor blades slowly faded away. Davis looked up and searched to the north. The enemy warbirds flew harmlessly out of sight. That was close, Piper said to the side. Too close, Davis replied. Check on our supplies. Relocate ammunition. Ration the water with priority to the wounded. Throw away anything we don't need. I promise to wait at the rally point until 2100. Maybe Tyler and Gerber will show up. We'll wait until then. Davis planned his move. Tyler and his two men from OP North arrived just before 20 o'clock. Nothing was heard from Specialist Herber and Fetterman. Davis now had 27 men, 4 of them wounded. He planned to take the platoon down a narrow pass to the southeast. Toward friendly lines, he would have to move in a column, and 8 men would carry the 4 wounded men on makeshift stretchers. That left him only 19 men who could fight. Security was provided by a 3-man point team, led by Sergeant Musuguchi. He advanced 200 meters in front of the platoon, armed with a squad radio and the last remaining pair of PS-37 night vision goggles. He moved slowly, fearful of enemy ambush. 2 riflemen trailed closely behind him. The platoon moved out at 21:30, waiting as long as they could for any possible stragglers to arrive. I assume none arrived. The platoon cautiously snaked its way down a narrow trail that led to the southeast. Davis kept in constant communication with Musuguchi. The movement was fortunately slow. Musuguchi took no chances and stopped the column's movement to check out suspicious areas. The wounded got worse. Sir, Carlson is in bad shape. Specialist Eisler, the platoon medic, first medic, whispered to Davis, leading the column. Davis signaled a halt. As soon as the column stopped, he talked quietly into the radio transmitter to halt Mizuguchi and the point men. How's it look? Davis asked as Piper came forward from the rear of the column. Not good, sir. Carlson got shot in the gut. I've done all I can, but he's in shock. We're losing him. We can't stop, Davis said grimly, shaking his hand. His only chance is for us to get back to our lines. Won't get any better here. We have to keep moving. The platoon resumed its march. Davis suddenly realized how tired he was. His body ached, and he had cuts and bruises everywhere. He thought about Carlson. Will he ever make it? Did I make the right decision? Yes. Never surrender. 1-6, this is point. We're out of the pass, Nishiguchi whispered. I can see the big basalt mountain to the southeast, about 6 kilometers away. That's where you said the friendlies are supposed to be. Davis looked at his watch. Still at night. He had been traveling for 5 slow, agonizing hours. That's hard. Luckily, it's at night, but imagine that during the day in the desert, with wounded, after 2 fights, it's rough. Watch your point, stay in position, we'll come to you. The column of exhausted infantrymen closed in on the point team's position. Davis formed them in a tight perimeter while Piper made sure everyone was accounted for. Mitsugishi, Mark, Piper, over here, Davis whispered. Carlson died, Piper said quietly as he joined the lieutenant. Yeah, I figured as much. It sucks, but nothing you could do. That's the soldiers' life. Everyone else who started with us is accounted for. The other wounded will die if you don't get them some help soon. Well, David stared to the south, trying to see through the dark and trying to close his mind to Carlson's death. One death of many. But such is war. I think it is we did the best we could with the means we had. I don't think we could have done this better. The enemy was so overwhelming, and once you are out, I got this wrong way around. Once you're out of artillery, the holy artillery, it's, yeah, nothing you can do. You know what they say, sometimes you can do everything right, but you still lose. Well, Cowper, go through the frequencies and try to find someone to talk to. Put up your long antenna. Wilco, Cowper replied. Davis spread his map out before them. He unfolded his poncho, climbed under it to block the flashlight beam for enemy observation, and reviewed the map. We have 6 kilometers to go to reach friendly fires and only 3 hours of night left. If you can't get someone to answer us, we can try to enter our lines tonight. If that doesn't work, we'll follow the rough ground to the south. Sergeant Mark moved to the lieutenant's position and sat down. He took off his Kevlar helmet and dropped it to the ground near his feet. Sir, the men are beat. We can't go any farther, said. Carper, any luck? Davis pleaded. Nothing, sir, just gibberish on the radio. The enemy must be all over the place. Don't give up, Davis ordered, ignoring the odds against him. Lieutenant, we can't go on, Mark insisted. We don't know how far away our lines are. We might just be walking into an ambush. We might. Yeah, he's got a point. Still don't know for sure that the first brigade ever made it to the second line of defense. Hell, for all we know, they could be headed away from the fighting. What if they're not here? Do you think we can make it on 6 clicks tonight? Davis must decide. Rest and wait for tomorrow night or try to make the link up tonight. We're in enemy territory. The enemy could see us and catch up while we're resting. We have no choice. I don't think we have a choice. We must press on. That's what I think. If you do not press on, yeah, I get it. The men are beat and fucked, and it sucks. But if we want to maximize our chances of survival, we continue on. Yeah. That's what I think. I know I've never chosen the rest option. I've worked these men to the bone. But yeah, yeah, that's how it is. Work these men to the bone, but but yeah, it's survival. It's survival. It can't wait. No, no, no. It sucks, but yeah. Davis listened to the low moan of one of the wounded. And I get it. You're tired, you're fucked, I get it. But we're in enemy territory. You can't stay here. No way. No way, no way. Davis listened to the low moan of one of the wounded. The men are beat, he realized. Still, the enemy is probably just as tired and confused as we are, Davis thought. We must press on. Luck in the long run is given to only those who persist. Yeah. No, can't quit now. We have to find a way out of this before daylight. I have an idea, Davis said, trying to squeeze one more ounce of strength out of his depleted soldiers. What, pervitin? What it's called? Like the meth? Maybe, maybe a bit of meth will, pervitin will be the thing they need. Mitsuguchi Cooper and I will move forward to higher ground and try to establish radio contact. If we can reach someone on the radio, maybe we can get help. It's worth a try, sir, Piper commented quickly, supporting his lieutenant. I'll keep everyone here, ready to move on your order. Well, they can have a bit of rest. Piper organized the survivors for defense in a nearby wadi. Mitsuguchi, Cooper, and Davis headed southeast through the rough terrain. With every step they took, the small group moved to higher ground. After 20 minutes of travel, Cooper set up his long-distance antenna and tried the radio again. So I've got company command net from 1st Brigade, Cooper screamed. Rebel 1-6, this is Whiskey 2-9er. Authenticate Kilo uniform. Davis quickly took the handset. Cooper read his wrist coder and whispered the proper authentication reply to Davis. This is Bravo 1-6. I authenticate Victor. Over. There was a pregnant pause. Okay. It's pregnant, so it gives birth. I don't know this English saying, but I liked it. No, I don't. But we'll get on with it. Davis held his breath. Had they reached an enemy station trying to deceive them? Did the armored brigade have a different set of authentications? Roger 1-6. Where are you guys? How can we help get you out? Davis sighed in relief. It was going to work. After several radio calls, he established a plan to have his team picked up by helicopter. One Black Hawk helicopter stripped down to allow for only the door gunners. He would fly to the platoon position and pick up everyone. A few 10-minute artillery prep, artillery, called a skibbity shit, suppression of enemy air defenses, would fire in support of the pickup. The helicopter would land just before sunrise. Using his handheld GPS, Davis led Cowper and Mitsubishi back to the wadi in less than 15 minutes. American artillery shells fell to the north. The Sia fired right on time. The sky grew lighter with the flashes of artillery fire. As the shells fell, a helicopter radioed Davis that they were inbound. This is it. I thought we would be close to the end. Yeah. Davis signaled the advancing helicopters with his blue-filtered flashlight. First, an armed warrior buzzed low overhead, searching for the enemy opposition. Then a big dark 60 landed on a flat plateau near Davis's position. The wounded were loaded first, then everyone else scurried aboard. Davis insisted on taking Carlson's body with them. He vowed not to leave any more dead soldiers behind. Right? The a warrior buzzed angrily to the north. Suddenly, the early morning sky was lit from the fire of a hellfire missile from the warrior. Davis watched as the missile trampled north and ignited against the dark silhouette of a distant BMP. Davis was the last man to go into the helicopter, jammed with men. The helicopter quickly took off and raced south. Now we hope we don't get shut down, but I feel like this is the end. Davis sat in a folding metal chair next to a long table that was covered with a plastic coated map of the area of operations. He looked at his watch and noted that it was already 13:30. Alone in 1st Brigade, main command post briefing tent, he waited patiently for orders from his new commander. The tent flap opened and 2 officers entered the tent. The first officer was lean, broad-shouldered colonel with grey hair and silver-trimmed glasses. The colonel was wearing an olive drab Nomex tankish uniform and the tank and cross sabers insignia of the U.S. Armor Branch. I wonder if the Armor Branch, if it's from the other game he made, the Armor Platoon. Mm. He wore a shoulder-holstered 9mm automatic pistol on his left side and carried binoculars slung around his neck. A female captain, in desert camouflage uniform, holding her helmet under her right arm, walked a few paces behind the colonel. The female officer wore the same load-bearing equipment as any infantry soldier. Woke. She had short, cropped blonde hair and the slender physique of a long-distance runner. Ah, a Valkyrie. Yeah. Okay, a blonde Valkyrie. Yeah. She was also armed with a pistol. Davis stood up and slung his rifle over his shoulder as the colonel approached. Lieutenant, how are you feeling? The tough-looked colonel asked kindly as he shook hands with Davis. I could be better, sir, yeah. Although we did quite well. Davis responded, returning the handshake. The rumble of distant artillery fire shook the ground from the battle going on in the north. I'm Colonel Hall, commander of 1st Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. This is Captain Cromwell from the Joint Task Force headquarters, the colonel said, motioning for Davis to move with him to the map table. His voice was confident and strong. My brigade just arrived in sector yesterday. Tomorrow we intend to counterattack in zone and pay the bastards back for the rough time they gave you all. I understand you led the platoon at Wadi El Sri, said Captain Cromwell. Yes, David said sadly, thinking about the man he had lost in battle. Most of the soldiers of his battalion had been killed or captured. About 100 soldiers have fought their way out to reach friendly lines. Few of the members of rival companies survived. Davis was the only officer who had not been killed, wounded, or captured. Alright. You did one hell of a job, Lieutenant, the woman said, sensing his loss. Your men brought us valuable time. Because of your battalion's effort, the enemy has paused to reinforce his lead formations before he tries for a final push to drive us out of the country. Like Napoleon said, one battle can be the deciding battle. Hopefully this was our battle. For America, fuck yeah. Leading the way, terrorists. Your game is true. Davis nodded. He wondered what had happened to Lieutenant Jeff Sandberg. He was still missing in action. Ah, our resupplier. The man with the goods and the equipment. Our quartermaster. Yeah, he was good. Captain Bludger is dead. Oh god. Sergeant Rossetti and Lieutenant Wilcox has been listed as killed in action. He wondered if their sacrifice was worth the hours they had purchased. Oh. I studied the aerial photos of your battle in Wadi al-Suri, Colonel Cohen continued. Captain Cromwell's right. You put up quite a fight there 2 days ago. You destroyed 9 tanks, 13 BMPs, not to mention the enemy infantry you fought. Davis stood in silence. You hadn't had time to tabulate their kills. First platoon had destroyed more than half a battalion. He looked at the map and stared at Wadi al-Suri. Have you assembled the survivors of your battalion into a fighting company? Colonel asked sympathetically. Yes, sir, Davis answered, looking into the colonel's head-beam eyes. I've 84 men fit to fight. I've organized them into 3 platoons and a weapon platoon. Good, Colonel continued, perceiving the lieutenant's emotion. Your battalion's defense slowed the enemy for 2 days. We needed that time to finish drawing our equipment and to plan our counterattack. The counterattack is why I've asked you here. If you feel up to it, I have a mission for you. Fuck yeah, we are like the Call of Duty man. Hell fucking yeah, we got a mission. We are a warrior. We are the lieutenant badass. Yes. Davis leaned forward, a fire flickering in his eyes. I'm listening, sir. The rumble of artillery grew louder. Yes, God is with us. God is with us. My men and I would like to even the score. First, let's get the formalities over with. The colonel searched in his pockets and pulled out a shiny silver first lieutenant's bar. Like a bar? Is it like a stripe? I guess so. Hey, you can just look this up. Mm. Oh, yeah, it's just a silver bar. Okay. He pinned the bar on our collar. Yes, sir. I don't have a subdued bar, so this one will have to do. Now you're first lieutenant. Congratulations. Davis remained silent. The shiny silver bar on his collar glistened in the tense, artificial light. Moved my brigade within striking distance of the enemy. We're well concealed by this line of hills, the colonel breathed, pointing to the map with his index finger. And there's no indication that the enemy knows we're preparing to strike. Our ally has massed another brigade, which will attack the enemy's southern flank. Tomorrow morning, we will attack and trap their lead division. We believe that we have just enough force to cut off and destroy his lead division, but only if we can even the odds by taking out the enemy's artillery, Captain Cromwell added, talking as if she was reading a checklist. The staff has determined that the enemy's artillery is the center of gravity of the lead division. The enemy has concentrated his artillery battalions in Wadi al-Suri. Davis was beginning to get the picture. Enemy artillery was deployed in Wadi al-Suri. It was a perfect target for a bold raiding force. This is where you come in, Davis, Colonel said. We need some light infantry to knock out the enemy's guns. I want you to lead your company back to Wadi al-Suri. I want you to get behind enemy lines, designate artillery targets, and block the enemy from entering or leaving the valley. Okay. Okay, we're sneaking back inside. There was an odd silence as the colonel stopped talking. Davis stared at the map. Visions of the trails in Wadi al-Sari filled his mind. You know the terrain better than anyone, Captain Cromwell added, breaking the quiet. With you leading the attack, the staff feels the mission has a very good chance of success. Okay? Davis listened intently as the brigade commander explained the mission. His men were expected to air assault into Wadi el-Sari and block the trails long enough to destroy the enemy's guns with Apache attack helicopters and US artillery. Okay? Luke Davis, the colonel said, searching for the right words. Those artillery battalions are the key. If they're knocked out, I can save a lot of lives and probably win the battle. I don't have enough artillery or close air support to take them out without you. Davis nodded. His mission was a desperate but classic air assault. I don't think it's over yet. No, it isn't. I thought it's over, but we get a special mission. Okay. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. When the larger force concentrates its combat power on a narrow front to break through enemy defenses, the air assault task force may bypass main defenses to destroy artillery positions, command posts, logistics and communications facilities, and to secure key terrain in the enemy's rear. Okay. Okay, I thought we survived, yay, but no. We get an extra mission. I like it. The 3 GLIT teams that we will attach to your company are central to our plan. Ground laser designators, okay. We'll mark targets for laser guided munitions. That was what the enemy was using on us. We have a few Apache and Warrior helicopters and a couple hundred laser guided artillery shells. You must get the laser designators close enough to designate the enemy guns for these assets. I understand, Davis answered. Do we know what's in Wadi al-Sari now? Approximately 3 battalions. That sounds like a lot. I don't know how much that is, but that sounds like a lot. Cromwell replied quickly, pulling out a computer-printed report from a notebook she held in her left hand. The captain studied the report for a moment. We have identified 2 battalions of towed 130 millimeters and 1 battalion of self-prepared. Yeah, okay. No signs of tanks or infantry in the valley or indications of defensive preparations. Okay. No signs of tanks or infantry. What is in there then? I don't know what is it. Is this artillery? 130 millimeters. That sounds like a big shell. Yeah, it is 1,000 millimeters is a meter. So a tenth of a meter. Sounds like a big shell. Sounds like an artillery shell. Yeah. Let's look it up. Yeah. Yeah. That's an artillery shell. Of course. So there's artillery in the wadi. Okay. Yeah. Captain Cromwell displayed intelligence photos that revealed the enemy artillery battalions in Wadi al-Sari. Davis looked up at the colonel. You want me to take a company to attack 3 battalions? Negative. Your objective is to secure the trails on the western approach to Wadi al-Sari. We'll look to it later. but I'm going to make an image of this. Yeah. Your objective, no, that's not a good one. Let's. Your objective is to secure the trails on the western approach. Let me just save that so we know our mission exactly. Your objective is to secure the trails on the western approach to Wadi al-Suri. Your mission is to position the ground laser designated teams to lace for our artillery and the attack helicopters to take out the enemy's artillery. If you can accomplish this, you will have a great advantage. If you can't get in, I won't be able to use Apaches, and I'll have to fire my artillery blind. We have to give God our eyes, you know? The success of your attack will decide whether we win or lose. Fuck yeah. It's now or never. It's a desperate mission because we're trying to fight this guy on a shoestring. Just isn't enough stuff in theater to hit him with anything else. Your infantry will make the difference. You know how few forces in the United States has in this country? Will I continue? Reinforcements are on their way, but most of the heavy stuff won't arrive for weeks. We don't have that much time. I must use everything I have. I can't hold anything back. If you don't win this one, we won't get a second chance. Hail Mary fight. Have you watched that movie Hail Mary? You know, it's the Reddit movie. No, I kind of liked it, but it was still Reddit. It's good. It's good sloppy. It's good. It's good fast. Yeah. Do you think you can do it? Sir, we left some good men out there while we bought time for the rest of you to get here. My men are all fighting men. I'm sure the rest of the men in the battalion feel the same way. I know they want a chance to even the score. Bloodlust, yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Go crazy. Sorry. Not sorry. I shouldn't apologize. Rah! The colonels nodded thoughtfully, noting the determination in the young lieutenant's voice. I know I'm asking a lot. Anything can happen. If you run into too much opposition, it's your call on how to act. I don't expect you to sacrifice your men if you can't accomplish the mission. Davis nodded. He knew he would have to act independently. It might take several hours after they landed before Colonel Hall's tanks would arrive. They'll be resupplied tonight. And you won't have any mortars, but I can get you some javelins and 84S. Captain Cromwell will accompany you. With a sort of worried look at the armored colonel. Don't worry, you're in charge, Lieutenant. She'll be here with an RTO, a radio guide, it's an RTO, to maintain contact with the brigade when the attacking forces draw within radio range. I want her there to assist the link up when my tanks get close to you. Davis nodded. When do we attack? 4:30 tomorrow, the colonel answered. You have to be in position and ready to attack by then. Well, I've got to visit my battalions. Captain Cromwell will fill you in on everything else you require. Our Valkyrie will fill us in. Good luck, Davis. Thank you, sir. Davis answered. The two men shook hands, and Colonel Hall turned and left the tent. Even though the bastards outnumber us, we still have some tricks up our sleeve, Captain Cromwell said, passing a glossy black and white photograph to Davis as the colonel exited the tent. Our satellite and aerial surveillance is one ace in the hole that can give us an advantage. Sorry, I was just checking my recording if it worked. or if it's not statically, like the shitty video. Um, yeah. Davis paused as he studied the two helicopter landing zones that were depicted on the map. Landing Zone 1 was 3 kilometers to the southwest of the trails of Wadi al-Suri. Landing Zone 2 was just east of the trails. Davis looked at the photos again. Any sign of enemy reserves in the area? Davis asked, pointing to the area west of the trails. So I'm just igniting my incense, so it smells nice in my. There we go. I'll find. I should have paused for this. Yeah. There we go. Good. That's nice. Where were we? Any sign of enemy reserves in the area? Davis asked, pointing to the area west of first. Negative. Cromwell said definitively. But these photos are 6 hours old. Things could change by tomorrow morning. The enemy's main effort is in the valley to the north, positioning for another attack. Every gun in these photos is facing east. Davis contemplated his options. The odds looked pretty steep. I was getting used to that. Could probably land safely at LZ1, but then he would have to move his company 3 kilometers across. There we go. This is LZ1. It's LZ2. Final, I don't know what this is. Well, what? Map insert. No, that's here. I don't get this arrow. This is us. US attack. Intermediate objective US. Final US objective. Okay. Here we have the Wadi. Uh, that's the question. Can we sneak in? That's the difficult one. The odds look pretty steep, but he was getting used to that. He could probably land safely at LZ1, but then he would move his company 3 kilometers across open ground to get to the trails. If he landed at LZ2, he would be connecting a salt landing on top of the objective within sight of the enemy. Um, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 3 kilometers walking. How much is that? Walking. How much of a walk is that? Time. Takes about half an hour. Okay, half an hour. What did we know of the enemies? They were facing what? East? That way. Yeah, makes sense. Um, uh, if we are spotted, it's not like the artillery can artillery bombard us because the artillery is right. We're right on top of the artillery. But still trying to sneak in, right? Still trying to sneak in. They have to walk from here to there. Are there enemy scouts there? That's the problem. How visible? I don't know, man. No, 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 no. Stealth, if we can try and get it, is key, I think. Maybe there are enemies that spot us and will spot us while we walk through there. I don't know. If we land here, we'll get spotted for sure. And we don't want to get spotted. We want to be sneaky. So, yeah. I don't like that we're on open ground. But it's not like the artillery can turn and shoot on us while we're on the move. I think that's how it works. Yeah. I am going to save this section because we got a new mission and a new mission needs a new section, obviously. But, yeah. No. No, no, no. We have to be sneaky. We can't just go in there and then laser target them. And if they see us, well, yeah, what? They're still gonna shoot us. There's so many fucking battalions or whatever. I don't know how much a battalion is. But it's probably a lot, right? It's probably a lot. Um, yeah. No, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing a reason why we should pick LZ2. Nah, I think LZ1. LZ1 seems wise because we can't get out of there. It's not like we're fucking rocket troops that can go away again. So no, we don't want to get spotted. We don't want to get spotted. So we'll walk there. Okay. Yeah. LZ1 it is, section 55. I think you're right, David said calmly, passing the aerial photo back to Captain Cromwell. Our mission is to block the enemy from getting into or out of the trails. Thought our mission was to laser target them. Cromwell remained silent, looking at the map. We'll land at LZ1 and march to an attack position just short of the trails. Once we got everyone assembled, we'll move up Trail 4, the more southern trail, and attack the secure mouth of Wadi al-Sari, Negrid, North Korea, whatever. From that location, we can block everyone coming in or out and use the GLBs. Okay. Captain Cromwell nodded her approval. Colonel Hall expected you to attack at 4:30. That gives you only 30 minutes before BMT. Yes, Davis replied. Assuming a movement rate of 2 kilometers an hour, we'll have to land at LZ1 not later than it gives an hour and a half after landing at the LZ to be in position. Okay. The first helicopter landed at LZ1 at exactly 2 o'clock. The moon was waning, but it provided enough light to make navigation easy. The helicopters came in 2 lifts, 4 in the first and 3 in the second. Each chopper carried 10 to 14 men. Everybody out now, Davis yelled. The men jumped from both sides of the low, Hovering Black Hawk helicopter, ran 20 paces and dove for cover. They pointed their weapons outward toward the darkness. From the hasty perimeter formed around the helicopter. As soon as all the soldiers and equipment were unloaded, the helicopter quickly lifted off. Let's go, David. Let's go, David shouted as he rushed to occupy the northern perimeter of the LZ. Follow me. Cowper, David's trusted RTO, was close by his lieutenant. Davis had divided the company into 3 platoons. Sergeant Piper led first, Sergeant Jordan second, and Sergeant Misoguchi third platoon. In addition, he had 6 javelin teams. The company's total strength was 84 men. They carried 6 javelins with 3 rounds per javelin, 38 force, 6 M60 machine guns, and 20 anti-tank mines. What Davis lacked in firepower, he hoped to make up for by taking advantage of the element of surprise. Yeah, we need surprise. The rumble of distant cannon fire filled the air. Davis could hear the enemy artillery battalions and Wadi al-Sharif firing at the Americans. The last helicopter left the LZ. Davis put on his, I think there's a night vision goggles, broke open the infrared chemical light, and waved it to the south. In a few minutes, Piper, Jordan, and Misoguchi were kneeling at his side. Davis took off his night vision goggles. Piper, are we ready? He asked. Affirmative, Piper answered. Everyone's accounted for. We're ready to move out as planned. Okay, from this point on, no talking, no lights. Use your night vision goggles, Davis reminded the soldiers. Company Wedge, Misoguchi, you lead. I'll be right behind you. Piper's platoon to the right, Jones to the left, just like we rehearsed. Roger, sir, Piper answered. It's 210, Captain Cromwell. I suggest you stick with me, Davis announced, and then paused to see if there were any further questions from Cromwell. Okay, get back to your platoons and move out when I give the signal. The leaders returned to their platoons. In a few minutes, Davis whispered the order to advance, and the soldiers silently moved forward. Misoguchi's platoon led the way, sending reconnaissance teams ahead of the main body. Except for the steady rumble of the enemy's guns firing from Wadi al-Sharif, the desert was quiet. Davis marched quickly, followed closely by Cromwell, Cowper, and Mark. Trailing Sergeant Mark were 3 soldiers carrying handheld ground laser designators. 3 javelin gunners and their ammo bearers followed close behind Sergeant Mark, within earshot of their company commander. The other 3 javelin teams were assigned, 1 to each platoon. The men struggled forward under the weight of the heavy loads. They had traveled for 20 minutes when a single rifle shot interrupted the advance. The Americans hit the ground, pointed their weapons to the north, and searched the horizon. Lieutenant, Cowper whispered, Misoguchi reports. A bright explosion of sparks and flame cut off Cowper's sentence. Someone up front had fired an M84. Davis crawled over to his RTO and grabbed the radio headset. The sound of small arms and machine gun fire echoed in the night. 3-6, this is 6-6, Davis shouted into the transmitter. The battle intensified up ahead. Davis could see the explosions. 2 enemy vehicles were on fire. Green and red tracers filled the air. 6-6, this is 3-6, Misoguchi replied. His words were spaced as he gasped for air. He ran into an enemy platoon. Tanks and BPNs, at least 5 vehicles. Another explosion illuminated the early morning sky. Flares popped up overhead and slowly descended over the battle area. A javelin fired, then another volley of 84s. 2 tanks and 2 BMPs were burning furiously. In the bright light, Davis could see a BMP moving away from the firefight. 3-6, don't let them get away, David screamed over the radio. It was too late. The BMP and an enemy tank roared off to the north, safely out of range of Mitsubishi's weapon. Lieutenant, what the hell happened? Captain Cromwell demanded. Davis paused as he exchanged information with Sergeant Mitsubishi over the radio. Cromwell waited patiently as Davis listened to Mitsubishi's report. Mitsubishi's men were surprised by an enemy sentry. They had no choice but to fight. When they got into the wadi, they found an enemy combined arms platoon asleep in their vehicles. Mitsubishi managed to destroy 2 tanks and 2 BMPs, but it looks like a BMP and tank got away. One of our men is wounded. Great, what are we going to do now? Cromwell demanded. Davis reviewed the tactical situation. The enemy now knew that a dismounted force was in their rear. Davis had lost the element of surprise, and his force was moving in relatively open ground. If the enemy counterattacked him with armor, he could be slaughtered. It would be daylight soon, and a small force without the cover of darkness would be an easy target for enemy cannons. Should he continue, or find some good ground to set up the fence right where he was? Set up the fence in open ground? No. His first obligation was to protect his force. The mission was compromised. He couldn't expect to infiltrate Wadi el-Sari without surprise. Colonel Hallward pointed this out himself in the mission briefing. If Davis found some good ground to defend from, he might be able to keep his company alive and wait for support of 1st Brigade. On the other hand, if he continued the attack, he would have to change his plan. Without surprise, he knew he couldn't make it to the planned blocking position inside Wadi el-Sari, but he might be able to move the position near for a former blocking position that could fire enfilade across the tank ditch. This course of action was not without risk. The enemy would fight like hell to control the western edges of the trails to Wadi el-Sari. Davis, what are you going to do? Continue the mission. Fuck defensive position. Fuck off. Section 77. No defensive. Defensive will be sitting ducks. We have to continue. Maybe you say the element of surprise. Who knows how good that comes out? Who knows? The platoon leaders assembled in front of their company commander. Captain Cromwell knelt next to Davis. You can still make it, Davis said confidently. He unsheathed his bayonet and drew a crude diagram on the ground. The moonlight reflecting off the white sand was just strong enough for the soldiers to see the lieutenant's hasty sketch. Jordan, your platoon sets up a blocking position to the southwest to stop any enemy from coming from the west. Take all the anti-tank mines and 4 javelins with you. Piper, you'll take a squad with a machine gun and all the Glut teams except one and infiltrate the high ground, the Wadi al-Sari. Find a position to lace from and call me as soon as you're ready to use the ground lasers. The rest of your platoon and Mitsugishi's platoon will move with me to a position just south of the old tank ditch. Davis looked at his platoon leaders. Piper smiled. Mitsubishi, Jordan, and Mark listened with quiet confidence of veterans. Okay. Piper is, yeah. He respects us now, I think. He doesn't cuck us anymore. I think we got him. Piper, I trust you to get 3 lasers up high enough to see into Wadi el-Sari, the lieutenant said. Your mission is to target everything in the valley for the attack helicopters and artillery. Mark, is the angle okay to lace from the south wall? Stand by, sir, I'll check, Mark said. She looked at his map and plotted the angle from the laser designators to the location of the guns. I'll take the rest of the company just south of the Tanguch, near North Korea, Davis continued. I'll have one of the artillery ground laser designated teams and two javelins and cut off all east-west movement along the trails. Sir, angle T is okay, Mark announced, explaining that the lasers would be able to lace safely from their proposed position on the high ground of the south wall of Wadi al-Sari. Roger, Davis said, looking to Mark. Well, that's it. Any questions? There were none. The platoon leaders departed, issued quick orders to their units and moved out. It was 4:15 when Davis finally got in position. He set up his command post in the center of the firing line that the company formed perpendicular to the tank ditch. Hutchinson's and Cowper erected their large attendants and made contact with 1st Brigade. Musuguchi commanded the platoon to the east. Sergeant Piper called on the radio that he was in position at 4:20. The Americans waited. The principal position in almost every attack on every battlefield is to maintain momentum. Right. Exactly. Every instinct, especially among inexperienced soldiers, is to take cover under fire. Instinct is reinforced when the bodies of others who fail to do so lie all around. It requires a considerable act of will to persuade limbs to act, which have suddenly acquired an immobility of their own. Inexperienced troops find it notoriously difficult to assess the extent of resistance and risk. Exactly. Sitting ducks, defensive, are you crazy? Exactly. Momentum, 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 momentum. Strike quick, strike true, continue. Those are it should be the instincts of every battle. That's how Caesar did it, right? He didn't wait around. He went all across the fucking Gallia to fucking Gaul. Like left, right, center, quick, 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 shook, 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 shook. Exactly. The company, minus Pipes and Jordan's troops, occupied a firing line along the ridge of a shallow wadi overlooking the exit to the trails of Wadi al-Sari. Davis lay prone, busy with the radio, getting reports from Piper and Jordan. Sergeant Mark lay a few meters to his right and Cowper was on his left. The soldiers quickly dug shallow fighting positions with their entrenching tools. So it's Piper, Cowper said, as he gave Davis the radio insert. The enemy is all over the place. Camping out. Gleeful, Piper reported. I can see about 30 cannons and 20 trucks. This will be like shooting fish in a barrel, said he. Roger, just stay safe and lace when I call you. Exactly. When we were infiltrating behind enemies, they don't know. Maybe we were a leftover team, maybe we were on something else. They didn't know that this was our plan. So even being spotted there, out in the open, I don't think it's a death sentence as some of these characters think, as the woman thought. Oh god. An ear-splitting explosion suddenly detonated from the southwest as a firefight erupted in Jordan's blocking position. An enemy tank burned ferociously, apparently the victim of one of the anti-tank mines. Davis looked to his left rear and saw the entire glow of a burning enemy vehicle and a BMP that had fallen prey to Sergeant Jordan's javelin gunners. Other enemy vehicles returned fire, lighting up the desert with traces and the flash of cannon fires. Hold on, Jordan, Davis thought. Hold on. Sir, there is a bunch of vehicles moving towards the trails, Cooper announced. Davis turned to observe the front. Cowper pointed to a column of trucks heading toward Trail 4. The trucks came to the entrance of the trail and stopped. Davis flashed a savage grin and scanned the oncoming vehicles with his binoculars. 10 fat, defenseless trucks were sitting in Davis's kill zone. Lovely. Just lovely. Lovely. They're sitting ducks. Do you want me to take them out? Mark asked. Call in the fire on my command, Davis said slowly. Call in the fire on my command. He took the handset from Cowper and called Mitsubishi. We're positioned at the western edge of the company firing. 3-6, this is 6-6. Do you see them? Over. Roger 6-6, Mitsubishi reported. They're at max range for the 84s, but I could hit them with my machine gun. Negative, hold your fire. I want to get them all. We'll wait a few minutes and use the glitz to hit them with artillery, Davis answered, pronouncing the acronym for the man-carried ground laser, the glitz. The glitz. Okay, we'll wait for your order to fire, Mitsubishi said. So we've got artillery on the line. They'll be firing soon. Davis looked at his watch. It was 4:29. Flashes to the west and the hard sound of detonation of anti-tank mines told Davis that Jordan's flank guard was still in business. Designate now, all glitz! Davis shouted. Affirmative. The artillery is firing Copperhead now, Mark answered. Suddenly the trails to the west of Al-Sari shook with the terrible roar of incoming artillery. Oh, I love the artillery, for it is the salvation of our platoon. At the same time, American shells struck the enemy artillery positions at the eastern end of Wadi al-Sari. Davis watched the enemy ammunition carriers explode one by one as they were struck by laser-guided artillery shells. Silently working in concert with the artillery, Sergeant Piper's laser-designated painted the targets with invisible lights. The heavy artillery shells picked up the designation and were guided toward the target with pinpoint accuracy. Enemy trucks and jeeps were blown apart by the blast. Sir, Piper says the artillery is destroying them in the valley. He's designated their self-prepared artillery and ammo trucks first. He says there is a bunch of towed artillery trying to escape down the trails. Davis scanned the area with his binoculars. The light from the burning vehicles and the crash of the artillery rounds illuminating the scene. A series of trucks towing cannons behind them started to jostle down Trail 4 headed west. The trucks were moving right into the range of Davis's machine guns. Cowper, tell Mitsubishi to get those trucks. Fire! Fire! The trucks were greeted by the surprise fire of machine guns, saws, 84s, grenades, rifles. Not a single enemy vehicle escaped. A series of tremendous explosions lit up the early morning sky as the ammunition trucks accompanying the guns caught fire. America, fuck yeah, yeah! Fuck yeah. The US artillery suddenly lifted as American attack helicopters arrived. Guided by the fierce explosions, the helicopters used their cannons and anti-tank missile to finish off the enemy artillery. There we go. There we go. The enemy artillery battalions in Wadi al-Sari were on the horns of a dilemma, Davis thought. If they stay in the valley, they'll die to artillery and anti-tank mines. If they run to the west, my machine gunners, javelin teams, and laser-designated artillery will search them out and destroy them as they try to escape. Yes! Fuck yes! The sun rose. Wadi al-Shri burned bright with the littered remains of the enemy's artillery segment. We killed their god, and now our god reigns supreme. For the artillery is God. Ah. Colonel Hall surveyed the scene. Enemy artillery vehicles lay smashed and smoldering throughout Wadi al-Shari. Burned tanks, wrecked BMPs, and the dead remains of enemy soldiers littered the landscape. Lieutenant Davis and Captain Cromwell and Sergeant Piper stood by the colonel's Humvee, I think? Humvee, at the western edge of the valley. In choosing their centurions, the Romans looked not so much for the daring fire-eater type, but rather for men who are natural leaders and possess stable and imperturbable temperaments. Not men who will open the battle and launch attacks, but those who will stand their ground even when worsted or hard pressed, and will die in defense of their posts. Exactly. Discipline. Although a bit of berserk rage is also good, I think. You need a bit of both, right? The yin and the yang, as they say. The the discipline, the the cold Aryans there, the Hyperborean ice Aryan rage, and the berserker howling wolf. You need both, right? The yin and the yang, the black and the white. You know? Ah, yes. Where is my fucking cursor? Here it is. Lieutenant Davis deserves all credit, sir. That's right, bitches. That's right, bitches. That's right, bitches. I'm a genius. Lieutenant Davis deserves all the credit, sir, Cromwell said to Colonel Hall with a wide grin on her face. We're gonna fuck Cromwell. He must have taken out at least 2 battalions. Yeah, we're gonna fuck Cromwell. Hell yeah, lads. We must take out at least 2 battalions and the enemy's combined armed reserves. Yes! Elsa, looking at the burning enemy equipment. A great victory! The brigade destroyed at least an enemy division today. That wouldn't have happened if you hadn't won here. Yes. Sir, my infantry deserve all the credit, David said proudly. But we paid the price for this victory. I only hope we get the rest of our forces here in time to end this damn war. He looked at the 6 US corpses laying in a neat, solemn line for the Grey registration unit. Every casualty is a tragedy, Colonel Hall replied. They are the result of our unpreparedness. The rush to disarm after a conflict is so typically American. As soon as we win a war, we tear down the military. Before this war, our army had too few units and too many commitments. Now the bastards at home are calling in the reserves and the recently retired veterans to fill the ranks. Fucking Washington. You should coup them! Kill them all! Kill them all! Oh, no. Sorry, now my video will not be YouTube friendly. Maybe I said the word too quick for it to not, the AI to not have gotten it, but probably, yeah. Davis listened carefully, tired and saddened by the death of his men, but proud of the victory his soldiers had won. Every time America goes to war, it has to learn the same lesson over and over, Colonel continued, his voice growing with anger. In traditional American fashion, we outdid ourselves. We cut down our forces in a world that required more commitments than ever before. Davis nodded slowly. He understood their sacrifice, even if he didn't understand national policy and geopolitics. All he knew was that he had trained to be a soldier, to fight his nation's wars, and to join the proud legions of our military. Davis, I just got permission from the Corps commander to make you a captain. Another promotion? By God, this will go to his head. Shut up, Piper! Shut up! I've no choice. I'm getting in some infantry replacements and I don't have a company to put them in. I asked the Joint Task Force commander to have you assigned to my brigade for the next few weeks until your battalion gets reorganized. Congratulations, Bruce, Cromwell said with a smile as he shook his hand. Yeah, we're gonna fuck Cromwell. Am I right, bro? Am I right, bros? No, yeah. Our name is Bruce? I guess our name is Bruce. And since you don't have any officers, I'm making Piper a second lieutenant. No, boo, boo, boo. Sir, you can't do that. No, sir, exactly. Boo. Demote him to shit shoveler. You don't have a choice, Lieutenant. The colonel spinned a shiny second lieutenant bar on Piper's collar. Now Captain Davis gets your company ready to move out. You still have a lot of work to do. But section 98. In the Gafsa area, east of El Guetar, an enemy armored division launched several attacks from the southeast, which were repulsed by American troops who held their position firmly. A number of enemy tanks were destroyed, and over 200 German prisoners were captured. Right. During World War II, the infantry forces often found itself facing attacks by heavy armored forces. A month after the disastrous rout of US forces at Kasserine Pass, the infantrymen of Patton's Third Corps were spoiling for a rematch. They got their chance on March 24, 1943. K Company of 3rd Battalion, 18th Infantry defended the hills east of El Ghatar and demonstrated to the vaunted Afrika Corps what a platoon of determined infantrymen could do. Right? I don't know. I don't know what this is. Is this like a okay? El Ghatar was a typical date palm oasis in the Tunisian desert. Steep and rocky hills covered the major routes of advance into the area. Elsewhere, the valley floor was crisscrossed with deep wadis. On March 24, 1943, K Company was deployed as the right flank of 3rd Battalion and controlled the main roads through its defensive sector. The commander of K Company was ordered that, if attacked, he was to block the enemy and defend until armored forces could arrive. The commander deployed with 1st Platoon in a reverse slope defense on a ridgeline that ran down toward the roads. The 2nd and 3rd Platoon were located on the counterslope to the rear. There was a wadi on the reverse slope, about 50 meters below and parallel to the crest of the ridgeline. 1st Platoon moved into position on March 22 and prepared positions beyond the bridge. Browning light machine guns and grenadiers were positioned on each flank. Quad machine guns, bars were posted to cover the crest of the ridge to plaster anyone coming over the top. A two-man observation post was established 500 meters forward of the company line. Once it got dark, the platoon moved to the top of the ridge and occupied positions on the forward slope to defend against enemy infiltration. By midnight, the defense was ready. At 6 in the morning, the observation post alerted 1st Platoon of the approach of a German tank column. Since no supporting infantry was observed, the advancing tanks, the K Company commander ordered his men to let the tanks pass down the road unmolested. 30 minutes later, the observation post reported a line of half-tracks approaching from the east. German mechanized infantry would soon be opposing first platoon. The platoon immediately moved to its reverse slope defense positions. The Germans moved short of the ridge, dismounted their infantry from their half-tracks, and assaulted the crest. The fire from the Americans was so effective that the enemy was unable to take the crest in spite of repeated attempts. The Germans, determined to take the ridge and drive off the Americans, continued the attack all day. 8 hours later, first platoon still stubbornly held its position on the reverse slope. The enemy finally launched a dismounted attack around the left flank, but was hammered back by the deadly fire of the platoon's machine guns. By 17 o'clock, the battle was over and the Germans withdrew, leaving behind 500 dead and wounded. 5 destroyed half-tracks. 1st Platoon, K Company, 3rd Platoon, 18th Infantry lost 1 dead and 7 wounded. This example illustrates the importance of preparation, security, and intelligent use of terrain to conduct a defense with light infantry against an armored opponent. The positioning of the platoon's key weapons and the flexibility of the defense to respond to different threats, day versus night positions, was a critical ingredient for their success. The platoon's use of concentrated fires delivered from positions that were undetected on the reverse slope of the ridge surprised the enemy and disrupted his combined arms synchronization. Conventional military forces remain the decisive means of winning war. The unthinkable technological alternative is to nuclear weapons, a result that did not occur even when the United States possessed a monopoly on nuclear weapons in the decade after the Second World War. The historical truth remains that air power alone, short of turning the landscape into glass through the use of nuclear bombs, cannot single-handedly win regional conventional wars. This lesson was learned during Operation Desert Storm. It took the execution of a combined arms ground assault to decisively defeat the Iraqis. The historian and theorist Trevon N. DeBoy defined combined arms as coordinated action by elements of different combat arms. The term is usually used in relation to combat activities at the tactical level, up to and including the division. The main characteristics of combined arms combat are fire and movement. Effective employment of combined arms is assured by allocation of tasks in combat, as well as by training and education of personnel. The combined arms concept involves the use of different arms and weapon systems, working in concert so that each will maximize the protection and destructive capability of the other. It is simultaneously application of several elements as an integrated role in order to produce overwhelming combat power. Combined arms involves the combination of maneuver, organic fires, and supporting arms in such a way that the moves that the enemy takes to avoid one threat makes him more vulnerable to another. Different arms such as infantry, mechanized infantry, armor, artillery, aviation, and a host of other supporting arms working together as a combat team under one commander. The intent is to force the enemy on the horns of a dilemma that results in his decisive defeat. The end is a bit rough. How longer will he waffle on? Concept of combined arms warfare has existed for centuries, but the nature of the combination, the organizational level at which the armies have produced combined arms, has varied greatly. The situation occurs because combined arms is characterized by the combat means employed, weapons, supporting devices, and organization. That means change rapidly, developing new combination and methods as technology advances. Combat leaders in the past have increased the effectiveness of their combined arms organizations by discovering the optimum combination of firepower and mobility and integrating this into their command and control system. The trend in recent military history has been to combine the arms at progressively lower levels of the organization. Does this mean drones or something? To employ combined arms effectively requires a thorough knowledge of the different weapon systems and techniques of the various branches. The combined arms teams work together to conduct operations fully integrated in time, space, and method. When put together deftly, combined arms warfare paralyzes the enemy and opens the way to quick, decisive victory. This is what occurred during the Operation Desert Storm. Each part of the combined arms played an essential role. One-handed punches seldom knock out their opponents. Combined arms fighters bob and weave use a 1-2 punch attack compared to a continuous jab. If the history of the 20th century offers any clues to the future, soldiers will continue to face challenges similar to those experienced by the platoons that fought at El Guetard. You have experienced these ideas through the decisions you have made in this book. The tactical decision game of the Battle of Wadi al-Sari is just an example of what soldiers could encounter on future battlefields. It is a battle that is fought in training situations at US Army National Training Center almost every month. Because this situation may have to be faced again, the United States must be prepared to project overwhelming military force to distant battlefields and to win decisively. Do you hear that, Mr. Trump? Decisive victory requires training and superbly equipped ground forces capable of executing combined arms warfare. While air and sea power are vitally important, they alone are not decisive. People do not live in the air or on the sea, man lives on the land. To control the land, you must be willing to put your young soldiers in the mud and force the issue to a decisive conclusion. It always comes down to the infantry. As Niccolo Machiavelli once said, the infantry must ever be regarded as the very foundation and nerve of an army. It's true, all true, all true. America must never forget the lesson so eloquently recorded by the historian T.R. Fehrenbach in his book This Kind of War, concerning a similar situation that America faced during the Korean War. If the United States ground forces had not eventually held Korea, Americans would have been faced with two choices: Holocaust or humiliation. General atomic war, in a less desperate attempt to save the game, would have gained Americans none of the things they seek in this world. Humiliating defeat and withdrawal from Korea would have inevitably surrendered Asia to a communist surge, destroying forever American hopes for a free and ordered society across the world. That's right. A nation that does not prepare for all the forms of war should then renounce the use of war in a national policy. A people that does not prepare to fight should then be morally prepared to surrender. To fail to prepare soldiers and citizens for limited, bloody ground action and then engage in it is folly verging on the criminal. If liberal, decent societies, decent, cannot discipline themselves to do all these things, they may have nothing to offer the world. They may not last long enough. Let us hope. Let's hope this is true. For Davis, the first major battle of the war was won. In spite of the initial setbacks, the United States and its ally brought precious time. That time was paid for in blood. The aggressor was checked, but he still had plenty of divisions left to fight with. Davis knew that he would be severely tested in the battles that lay ahead. You have won. I congratulate you on your tactical prowess. Thank you. Davis must now reorganize the remnants of a shattered battalion for tomorrow's mission. The war's not over yet. That is another story. That's it. We won. I won. Not we. I. um. Yeah. In the end, definitely this part. It's clearly a training book. There's a lot of jargon and blah blah blah. But apart from that, the game aspect, I like the detail. I wish this sort of depth would be possible in more fictional works. Like I want choose your own adventure games like this, like I don't know, in 40K universe or whatever. But it's just not there. It's all slop and shit. Like the last choose your own adventure game I played was some Chinese sci-fi game of being a planetary judge or whatever. And I like the setting a lot, but it is too soft. You can't just be like, oh, one wrong action, no, that, fuck you. And I love it. I love that with this, you're just allowed to die and learn from the world, from your mistakes, that you die. Um, yeah, it is. How many weird shit is in those? What the fuck if you fucked up here? I wonder if you did the, what is it? Splitting your platoons into 4 parts. You get all these crazy maps, man. Crazy maps. Maybe it's to prevent you from cheating. I don't know. Maybe. 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 No. I uh I will do some more games. There's a one gay game I have my eye on because someone I met made it. So it's like, yeah, sure, I'll play it. Make a let's play out of it. Why the fuck not? Um, and yeah. Do we have any other plans in the near future? Not yet. Um, not yet. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. But I like for this, as far as I saw on YouTube, this will be for a while the only let's play of this game. So for those who are interested, you only have me to pound upon. So yeah, so it is a niche, that's for sure. But it's mostly because yeah, because my Muse of Hate wrote about this one. I felt like I just need to try it out once. Just need to try it out. And now I have a feel for it. And yeah, in the beginning I died a lot, but I mostly died due to not knowing the power of uh, the great artillery, the holy artillery. But once you get that, it is very clear to just have a bit of warrior instinct you know? Don't be black pills. Because that's the rest of all the decisions, right? Pretty much. Yeah, except for maybe the zone one or drop zone two. But yeah, it is yeah. I keep it here. I wish you all good night. I'm gonna finish drinking my wine. I'm the drunk that I am. And see you next time for another game. I think. Yeah. I might do it in Dutch instead of English. Did this one in English because a lot of my American friends was interested in this one. So yeah, goodbye.